Hi, I'm Cassie from MeTime. This is a mini tutorial about how to bind a quilt. I'll be using the Perfectly Pieced 2023 Sampler Quilt for my demonstration. Let's get started. You know what's exciting? After you've stitched in the ditch and you've put all your quilt sandwich together, it is time to bind, which I actually quite enjoy. So I'm going to show you how to cut binding. What we're going to do is we're going to line up our fabric with the edge of our cutting board. And then we're going to take a ruler and we're going to cut our binding 2.5 inches wide. So we're going to line that up here. And we're going to cut that. And we're doing this with the width of fabric. So we're going to go ahead and set that aside. And if you have questions about binding, there's some really great instructions in the General Resource Guide. This is just a quick peek at them, but they really go through step by step on how to bind. So that's available there. But I'm going to stitch it with you. So after you have your binding cut, we're going to what's called miter them together. Why we need to do that is we need one really long strip. I've already mitered quite a few strips together for this quilt, and I'm going to do the last one with you. So I'm going to scooch over here to the sewing machine. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to take one binding strip and lay it vertically, and the other and lay it horizontally. And you got to do this on the same side continuously so that you don't have seams flip-flopping. They got to be on the same side the whole time. And then after they are on top of each other like this, we're going to twist this and we're going to put it in the machine. And what we're going to do is we're going to stitch a diagonal stitch line just right here. And we're connecting from where this part is to where this is. So we're going to line that up. We're going to stitch just a straight stitch. Straight across. All right. And what we have done here is we have a nice seam right here. And we're going to take our scissors. We're going to open this up so you can see that it made a nice continuous line. And we're going to trim off most of that fabric, leaving just about 1/4 inch of the fabric. And that way we have a nice continuous line. So what needs to happen next is we need to do some ironing. So I'm going to bring up my iron and my mat, and I'm going to show you how to iron this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our fabric and we're going to turn it wrong sides together. You know it's the wrong side if it's the side that your seam is going to be visible with the raw edges. We're going to just flatten that out. I like to give it a little bit of water to help me crease it good. And we're going to take our iron and we're going to just press it nice and flat. So it's just folding it in half and then pressing it well. Okay, and then we're going to carry on and do that along the whole strip. After we've finished stitching in the ditch, it's time to prepare our quilt for the binding. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a ruler, and the ruler is obviously a lot shorter than my quilt, so we're going to be cutting in sections. So we'll take it and set it right against the edge of our front of our quilt, and take our rotary cutter, and we're going to press down on that ruler so it doesn't slide, and we're just going to cut nice and close, and then we're going to shift. We'll just pull the quilt towards us, line everything back up again, and then we'll cut again. Okay, so the best part about binding, it is the finishing part of the quilt. So what I've done is I've taken the binding just on the end and I have looped it over several inches just so I know to save that at the end, and I don't want to stitch that part so I can have it to fold later. So I'm just going to clip those in place like that, and then I've clipped another one here on the end and then right here on the corner. This way I'm making sure that I stop close to my corner, and I'm going to show you how to miter the corner in a second. Alright, so now we're going to take our quilt and we're going to twist it around. We're going to go ahead and fold some of it over just so that it's not falling off our table here. There we go. All right, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sewing my binding on just after this folded fabric. So I'm going to put it about there, and I'm going to do about a 1/4 inch, a scant 1/4 inch, and we're going to stitch this on. It'll be fine. So I like to have clips just to help me hold it a little bit, and then I move them out of the way when I get close. And I'm going to just keep smoothing my fabric. And then remember, in the general resource guide, it has more information on the binding. We're going to hold this nice and taut against that corner. And we're going to sew to about a 1/4 inch to the end. And then we're going to stop and we're going to twist our fabric so that we can go at a 45-degree angle off that corner. You stitch along here, get to that 1/4 inch, and then you do that 45-degree angle just like that, and it's hitting right on the corner. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fold our seam. So we're going to take our binding and we're going to pull it against where we are right here on those stitch lines. So we're pulling it against that 45-degree and making sure it's nice and taut, and you're kind of folding a nice triangle here. Then you're going to take it and pull it straight back down. And what we're trying to do is line up this fold with this line here. And I'm going to clip it in place just on this corner so that it stays folded just like that. And then I'm going to take my quilt and I'm going to twist it. And then I'm going to start sewing again, just a little bit in from the seam. Again, we want to stay somewhere around that 1/4 inch. So I'm not going to start on the very end. I'm going to start in a little bit, do a tiny back stitch just to secure my stitching, and then I'm going to again pull my binding nice and flat and then carry on stitching. And that is a mitered corner. So now that we have stitched our binding all the way around the quilt, it's time to miter the last seam together. So what we're going to do is we're going to take both ends of our binding and we're going to fold it and have them butt up against each other. And then we're going to take a pair of scissors and we're going to just slip it in on this side and cut the binding right there. I'm going to remove those clips. Then we're going to take this binding, and since this is 2.5 inches, it becomes a great ruler. So all we have to do is lay it against this side, and then we can cut this right at 2.5 inches. And we can just get rid of the rest of the fabric there. And then just because often it needs a little bit of a shortening on this side, we're going to trim the tiniest bit of fabric, just a smidge, so that way it's going to lay nice and flat and not have excess. So then we're going to take our binding and we're going to bring this end down and we're going to open it up and this end over, and we're going to lay it right on top of the other, and we're going to clip this in place so that we can miter this last seam. So we're going to put a clip here and here, and then we're going to take it back to the machine and sew a diagonal stitch. So what we're going to do is we're going to just fold our quilt in half, and that leaves a lot of extra space over here for us to miter this seam. We already know that it is situated the way we want it to be. So we're going to go ahead and just line it up here in the machine. Make sure our fabric is sitting straight. So what we're going to do is we're going to stitch right here. We're just connecting this corner with the other corner that's under the presser foot. So we're going to line it up and then we're going to stitch away. Okay, and then we always double check our binding before we cut anything, because the last thing we want to do is cut it and then it's not quite right. So we're going to reopen our quilt and we're going to lay the binding nice and flat and make sure there's not a bunch of excess. And once we like it, we can go over here and trim off the extra fabric. just leaving about a 1/4 inch. And then we're gonna finish stitching our binding down and we'll have it all attached. After all the binding is attached, we're going to take it and we're going to fold it over to the back side, and we're going to take about the same amount. Make sure that there's enough fabric here and there, and then we're going to take a needle and thread and we're going to hand bind this. Now we're choosing to hand bind this because it's not one of those quilts that's going to be on the back of a couch or on somebody's bed. When it's not going to be used a ton, then we can hand bind it. So we're going to take our needle and thread and we're going to just pop it in here. I've already knotted the end, and I do have this double knotted. And then we're going to take just a teeny bit of the binding, and then we're going to grab a little bit of the quilt. And we're going to continue doing any kind of blind stitch that you prefer all the way around. So then we're going to go back in and then grab a teeny bit of the quilt. And we're going to pull that through. And we're going to do this all the way around the quilt until we have it all finished. Just like this. And it's going to look gorgeous. Thanks for joining me for this mini tutorial. This project is from the Perfectly Pieced subscription by MeTime, which is for machine embroidery. Perfectly Pieced gives you perfect blocks every time. We deliver complete machine embroidery experiences right to your door with files, instructions, fabric, and notions, so you can start creating beautiful quilting projects the moment you're ready. Find more about MeTime at metimedelivered.com or follow the link below. Please like and subscribe for more machine embroidery content. Now go enjoy some well-deserved me time.